Mary Flora Bell was born on May 26, 1957, in Newcastle upon Tyne, England. Mary's childhood was marked by a series of unfortunate events that would ultimately lead her down a dark and disturbing path. Her mother, Betty McCricket, was a prostitute struggling with addiction, and Mary never knew her father. Her mother would often bring home various men, exposing Mary to their alcohol and drug-fueled antics. As a result of her chaotic home life, Mary sought solace elsewhere. She found companionship in animals, often bringing stray dogs and cats home, caring for them, and finding comfort in their presence. Mary's first victim was a neighborhood cat, which she strangled and mutilated when she was just 7 years old. This sadistic behavior continued to escalate, and Mary soon set her sights on harming other children. She would often recruit her close friend Norma Bell, no relation, to assist her in her acts of violence. Their first victim was a 3-year-old boy named Brian Howe, who was lured to a derelict house by Mary and Norma. Once inside, they proceeded to brutally attack him, leaving behind a chilling scene of violence. They scrawled crude messages on his stomach with a razor blade, attempting to implicate another boy in the neighborhood. The police were called, and Mary and Norma were questioned about their involvement in Brian's murder. Mary showed no remorse, even expressing delight at the crime when speaking to the authorities. However, due to their young age, the police were unable to charge them with murder. Instead, both girls were sent to separate youth detention centers, where they underwent psychiatric evaluations. Mary was diagnosed with psychopathic personality disorder and deemed a danger to society. Norma, on the other hand, was considered a more passive participant in the crimes. Mary spent 11 years in various institutions, receiving therapy and attempting to rehabilitate. Her case stirred public outrage and ignited a nationwide debate on the issue of child psychopathy and the ability to rehabilitate juvenile offenders. Upon her release at the age of 23, Mary sought to rebuild her life under a new identity. She changed her name and tried to distance herself from her troubled past. However, the dark cloud of her crimes would forever hang over her. Mary moved to London and found work as a waitress in a local diner. She kept a low profile and tried to blend in with the crowd. However, she couldn't escape the memories of her past or the guilt that weighed heavily on her conscience. One night, while working at the diner, Mary spotted a young girl sitting alone at a table in the corner. The girl reminded Mary of herself at that age, vulnerable and alone, and Mary felt an overwhelming urge to protect her. She approached the girl and struck up a conversation, offering her some food and drink. The girl seemed grateful for Mary's kindness, and they spent the rest of the night talking about their lives. As they parted ways that night, Mary couldn't shake the feeling that she had done something good for once. She started volunteering at local shelters for abused children, hoping to make amends for her past mistakes. She also started attending therapy sessions regularly, working through the trauma of her childhood and trying to come to terms with what she had done. Over time, Mary began to see changes in herself. She became more empathetic and compassionate towards others. She started seeing glimpses of hope for herself and for society as a whole, that people could change for the better if given the right opportunities and support. However, these positive changes were short-lived as new evidence emerged, linking Mary to another murder that had taken place several years ago, that of a young girl named Sarah Thompson. The police reopened the case and arrested Mary for questioning once again. This time around, Mary didn't show any signs of remorse or delight at the crime. Instead, she seemed genuinely shocked and horrified by what had happened. She claimed that she had no memory of committing the murder and begged for their help in solving the case once again. The police were skeptical at first, but eventually decided to investigate further based on new evidence that suggested someone else might have been involved in Sarah's murder as well. They discovered that Sarah had been involved in a local gang led by a man named Tony, the Tank, Thompson, Sarah's father, who had been using his daughter as part of his criminal activities. Tony had also been involved in several other murders over the years, but had always managed to evade a justice due to his connections within law enforcement circles. With this new information in hand, the police were able to arrest Tony for his role in Sarah's murder, as well as several other crimes he had committed over the years. They also discovered that Tony had been grooming other young girls for similar purposes, including Norma Bell, who had been one of his closest associates, before turning against him after realizing what he was doing to innocent children like Sarah Thompson. Mary Flora Bell's involvement in Sarah's murder turned out to be nothing more than circumstantial evidence. She was released from custody once again, but this time around with renewed hope for herself and for society as a whole, that people could change for the better if given the right opportunities and support, but also with renewed determination to fight against those who preyed on innocent children like herself, once was, but now worked tirelessly towards protecting them from harm instead of causing it themselves.